Hello, my name is Armando, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make an ERP software, or in this case it's going to be an API for an ERP. So I'm going to make this using Golang and a framework called Gene, and as a ORM I'm going to use GORM, which is an an ORM, and it is very easy to use and very useful. And well, I have an like a starting point. I have a starting point based on previous projects that I already made, like a POS. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to explain some of the basic configuration. So I'm going to open my project, going to this path, and I'm going to open it using NeoVim. Okay, so then I'm going to show you that I already made the documentation for this, and it's not fully developed. I still have a lot of things to add and to modify, but this is like a skeleton. So if I show you this in Swagger, you're going to see that all of the routes already are shown there, even though some of them doesn't have a description, tags, responses, and schemas. Okay, so some of them only contains the route and the type of petition, which might be get, post, put, delete, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to start by showing you the documentation that I already made. So I have a starting point with this and with the configuration of the project that I already made using another previous project. And well, I'm going to show you the documentation. So first things is to open the documentation in Swagger. And for this, I'm going to show you something very cool. So I'm going to show you the Swagger for it's a Swagger editor, but it comes from GitHub. I think it's this, and you can use it running it from Swagger. So you have to do this. You have to run these two commands, which I already made. I already pulled the editor, but I have to run it too. So, well, I have to start Docker first. So I start Docker, then I run this code, maybe with sudo, and this is working now. Now I can go to localhost without specifying any port, and then I have this editor here. I don't need this window anymore. And as you can see, because of the fact that I haven't completed all of the structure, which contains parameters, descriptions, and so on, I have a lot of errors. But I don't care, because it still show all of the routes here. Okay, so as you can see, I have um, routes for getting or all the CRUD um, related related stuff for categories, for products, for promotions, for invoices, for inventory alert rules, which I'm going to explain later. Also for active alerts, alert statistics, reports, inventory management, human resources, which includes the employees and departments, positions, roles, and so on. Also, I might have used multiple tags, which created like another space for the same routes, but it is just for organizational purposes. I have locations in case you have many locations. I have transfers for the case in which you transfer products from one location to another. And I have rewards for the POS, for the point of sale, authentication, finances, and I think that's pretty much it for now, or by now. I don't know what's the right way to say that. So I'm going to start showing you the project. So what I have here is the same file that I opened here, which, as you can see, you can use some markdown to style the description of the project and all of the Open API specification stuff. Okay, so let's start with the project. So the first project, the first thing that I do is to create a main.go file where I'm going to add Gene. I'm going to add go.emp and that's it. So using these two things, I am able to load the env file, and I'm also able to create these flags, and the flags allows you to modify in the terminal some parameters. In this case, I picked these parameters to be able to be modified in case I want to test the project with different progress, Postgres database, and so on. So these are the flags that I made, but you don't need to have them. You can use a default configuration and use these variables as only variables, but not having the possibility to modify them. In this case, I show you that I can assign the variables to my, I don't know where are they, to this struct, and you can name it. So when you want to modify it in the terminal, the command line, you have to call them like this, like db host, db port, db user, and so on. Also, this is getting the information or the data for the struct from a n file that I loaded here, and which are named with this key. And you can add a description here. Okay, so you can parse all of the flags and that's it. So with this, I already have configured the Postgres database. Also, I have this function which returns a new application loading the configuration from the config struct, which is this one. Okay. This is a little bit complicated, and I used to have another type of configuration based on this one, but it was easier because the main.go file had all of the information in the same file. But because of the need of having the main.go here in the main file, I needed to make some changes. So this is the configuration that I have now, and I have to use this file to create all of the configuration stuff. Okay. So the main.go file runs the connect to progress function, and this function also runs the migrations, which are this file, and this is where I can declare that a struct should be considered as a database table. So in this case, I have this table employee, which is a struct, but using this function and this db auto migrate from GORM will create a table called employee with all of this information. Okay, and I also can have some like tags, which allows it to have a lowercase name, a size, and some properties like the foreign key, like commit empty, like the type of relation, like many to many, and so on. So basically what I did was to create the main.go file, configure the Postgres database, run this new application configuration, connect to progress with my own function that is here in the api.config file, then run the router, which is here in routes, and then run the engine from Gin, which allows me to have the routes and so on. Okay, so I'm going to show you also the router, which I already have a commented struct, but it shouldn't be like this. It might be easier to show, but this is like way more organized. So, well, that's it for now. Okay, I also have these structs, which are going to be converted into tables in the database. I have I have validators, which I'm not very sure that I'm going to use all of them, but at least, for example, this for the email, I'm going to use it, but I don't know if I'm going to use all of the validators. Okay, I also have the go mode and go sum file, and this hidden item, which is the env file, which I can show you here. But I'm not going to show you the information for the env file because I might have sensitive information. Okay, so let's start. First, I'm going to try to run the project using go run and a dot, which is telling me that I need to start the database. So I'm going to run systemctl start PostgreSQL, and if I try again, I am able to start my API. And right now I only have one route. I mean, I'm lying, I don't have any route. So I need to create a route. I'm going to send this to another window. Another desktop. And now I am able to create without typing API v1 many times. Something like this. So now I'm using the v1 variable. I am able to create a path directly in the API v1 route. So I have to type the full route, including API v1 and /role. And also this, which is the type of petition, the relative path, which in this case is directly the /role, and I have to assign the handler, which in this case is create role handler, which I haven't created yet, but I can create by making a new file, calling it roles.go, and well, basically I only need this. And I shouldn't be using the mouse, but I don't care. So going to roles, I have the package.api, and I'm going to show you how to create a handler or controller. So okay, what I'm going to do is to create a function which receives the API data, and also it allows me to use multiple functions which are included in the APP struct. So I'm able to use all of the functions that use this, and all of the information that is stored in this struct, which is the config, db, and so on. So I can name this function like create role, and to make it easier, I can add a suffix like handler, and I add a pointer to the gene.context type, class. Okay, and I save this, and it automatically imports the gene framework we used here. So I'm not going to create the handlers just improvising, but watching my documentation that I already made. So I have to go to the roles. Okay, I'm going to search for the roles and to see what are the methods that I'm going to have in which route, and it should also show the information that it will return or receive, which in this case it's going to receive some information which I haven't declared, but I should declare it. And I also have to declare the information that it's going to return. So for example, if I create a new role, I can have a response saying that the role with a specific name has been created successfully. Okay, so I already have this handler, I already have this route with this handler which already exists. And now I can start adding the parts that I need for this handler to work, which is the input, which should include some information which comes from data, but I don't have this information yet, so I need to, oh, I already have it. Which is imported from here, and I need to be able to receive the JSON information, so I create this if err should print JSON, and the input is a reference from input, and if error is different from nil, it will return a status bad request, and a message saying error, and specifying what the error is and stopping the process. Now I'm able to verify if some of the information already exists, And in this case, this role struct and table is very simple. It only includes a name, and obviously it includes the ID and all of the information that it needs for the table. And the GORM model also adds things like creation date and modification date automatically. So when I declare gorm.model, it will add the ID, the creation date, and the modification date. And I think that it might be also create a soft delete field. So it will add a deleted at field too. But I'm not so sure. I have to check that to be completely sure. Oh, and it also adds this metadata field. So the first thing I'm going to do when creating a new role is to verify that the role doesn't exist. So I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to call it existing role, which is from the type data.role, and if error, I'm going to make a query where the name is the same as input.name, and I'm going to start it in existing role. And the destination will be existing role. And if the error is nil, it will return a status conflict error and also a message from Gene. So what I'm going to do is to add the HTTP response and the message which comes from the Gene framework. And in this particular case, this conflict. In this particular case, as I already showed you, I don't have the information that this receives or returns, but I already created an error, 2 errors to be precise. So in this case, I am able to declare those errors in the documentation. And how can I do that? I mean, this is not part of the programming part. This is just for documentation purposes, but the documentation is very important because you are able to tell the front-end developers what your API does. So in this case, I am able to add this. And this got a little bit slow. I'm going to wait. Well, to be honest, I don't care. I don't even want to modify it here. So the right way to do it is directly in my text editor, which is NeoVim, and I can go directly to the docs file, and I can go to slash, I mean, to roles, and now I am able to paste this, and I need to modify this. So and I know I added this in the get position, but I'm going to delete it and add it in the right position. And now, like I already told you, I created some errors, which are a status bad request and a status conflict. So if you don't know what those are or what the code is, you can go and search for it, like status bad request, and you'll know that this is the 400 code. So I can add 400 here and describe it like status bad request. And also you can have the content which will be a JSON, including an schema which is going to be a reference from, for and you can create the bad request response, and also you can add examples like examples existing, the 400. I don't know. I'm not going to add an example because I don't really know what the response is going to be, but I'm going to test it later. So what I can do now is to create the response. So I'm going to the end of the file where there are the responses, and I already created the bad request one, so I don't need to modify it. So I can go back to the route, and I already am able to show the developers, the front-end developers, that if you make a bad request, it will return a bad request message with some information. And like I already told you, I also have another error, which is status conflict. So if you don't know what a status conflict code is, you can search for it. And you'll see that this is 409 status. So 409. And I can have a reference for a status conflict, which I don't have, but I can create it very rapidly, I hope. And I'm going to have an error schema so I can reuse it as many times as I need. And I can have many examples like something like a role with that name already exists. So having this, well, I also need to add the error response. We should be something like something like that. And if I load this again in my Swagger editor, you'll be able to see that the roles route, specifically the post, already have the error information based on the real information that I created in my handler. So role already exists. I should add something exactly like that. So I can add an example here, like and I made some modifications, so I'm going to import it again. And then I can go to roles in that documentation and I can show you how it already contains the responses. So we'll have to wait a little bit. And now I'm able to go to roles. And if I go to the post part, now I'm able to see that I have two type of responses, which are the 400 and 409, which is not working because of the indentation, but it's something that it's very easy to fix. So what I'm going to do is go into the visual mode and do this, and it should work now. I'm not going to try it, but as you can see, then you are able to see that you have a bad status request, and I'll have also the 409 status conflict code with its response. So now you can see that I have the bad status request and the status conflict with in a specific example, which in this case is role exists, and it shows that when the role already exists, it will return this kind of error or this kind of message. Okay, so going back to the code, and as you can see, I also added a new error, and having this error makes me able to modify my documentation and to add a status internal server error, which I'm not going to do now because I'm short in time and I have to leave very soon. But in the next series of videos, I'm going to modify it and to have my documentation updated. So to end with this handler, I'm going to add another error or another checking, another validation then. And if all of those validations are correct, the new role is going to be created and it's going to return an HTTP response with the status created. And it will show the input. as a response. So now I have to create a route, which I already did, and I also have to have the role in this auto migration function. So I'm going to get it from the data file, from the data employees, and the type is called role. So in migrations, I add role and this and a comma. And now this is going to create a table for the roles. And now if I test it, I can try it out. And usually this Swagger editor, it's not going to work here, but I'm able to copy the URL and run it through the terminal. And for some reason this is not working because I have the route calling it role and not roles. So if I change this name and instead of roles is called role, it should exist, but I also have to restart the server. So I'm going to run it again, and then I'm going to send this, which returns an error, and I'm not sure why. Like, well, oh yeah. So I need to have the information that I'm going to send to this. So should have. I mean, this is part of the documentation only and the testing part, but the route should be working now. So what I'm going to do is to modify this to be able to have this URL, but I can do it directly in Postman or any other related software for testing the API. So in this case, I also have to add a request body, which is required, and which will contain a JSON file with the schema of a role input. So So the role input will be an object containing a single element let's say name, which is of type string. And now, having this, it will receive the request body, which is a type name, which is of type string. So let's wait to the page to work. And now I am able to create a role called something like manager. And I can execute it. And it now contains the modified CURL, and it created the manager role. And as you can see, it returns an ID 5 because I already have this table with another project. But anyways, it's showing that it works, and it's showing that it returns a created at field, an updated at field, and add a deleted at field with a null value. Okay. So, I mean, I did a lot of things only to show you a post request and a very basic configuration, but I'm going to expand it as much as I can, and I'm going to try to teach you how all of this configuration and all of this ORM and the Gene framework works. Okay, so that's it for now, and I see you in the next video. So bye bye.